Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply. In this video is to bring you a closer look at the Bommer. This is their part number LB4311C 350-600. This is a basic prime coat spring hinge. And the LB4311C, all of that conspires to mean that it's a single acting spring hinge, and they're LB or lube bearing construction. The 4311 refers to the fact that 4311C refers to the fact that it's a commercial grade hinge. It's 130 thousandths. That it will have a 1/4 inch radius and 3 holes in a template pattern. This is a 3.5 inch hinge, so it'll have 3 holes for the screws. The -350 means that this hinge is 3.5 inch by 3.5 inch. The height is the first dimension on a hinge like this. Not that it so much matters when it's 3.5 by 3.5, but it would be certainly important to know if you were dealing with a hinge that was 5 by 4.5, or very commonly 4.5 by 4, like you'd see in the aluminum storefront industry. The 600 means two things. It means that it's made of steel and that it is in a prime coat finish, which serves to explain the irregular coloration on the surface of the hinge. This is meant to be painted, so it will look exactly like this. Okay, this is a single acting spring hinge. You can see from the swag on the hinge leaf there that when the leaves are brought parallel, they're meant to be mortised flush to the door, to the edge of the door and to the frame, so that you can achieve that typical 1/8 of an inch margin between a door and frame. This is UL listed for use on fire rated doors. There's the stamp that's on there, and there is an image below this video that shows that stamping as well, so that you can read it a little bit easier. Okay. Now, non-handed, you can install this for either a left-hand door or a right-hand door. Easily adjustable spring tension. Those holes, again, they're in a template pattern, and let's jump to the link below this video to the document called Template, and that will show you the location of the holes for the screws. And speaking of holes for screws, screws are included in a complementary finish. In this case, they're prime coat. It's occasionally seen where Bommer will send chrome screws with a prime coat hinge because they're intended to be painted. They figure there's not a reason to be concerned about that all the time. The template will give you all of the dimensional properties, including the overall height of the hinge, and more importantly, the location of the screw holes. If you are replacing existing hinges, because there are several different types of patterns of locations for these holes, verify field conditions against this template before making a purchase, because this may not be the one that you need. It could be another, although it's unlikely that it'll be another when you're dealing with a thick contractor commercial grade hinge leaf thickness like this. There's a link below this video to the certifications and hinge selection guide, and also to the installation instructions. Let's look at the certification guide first. What that really is helpful for us in this case is that it will tell you if you're dealing with a door up to 70 pounds, you can use 2 of these spring hinges and 1 regular ball bearing hinge. And if your door is heavier than that, pushing 90 pounds, go with all 3 spring hinges so that you can get that door closed. It will also tell you how many, I don't actually see it's referred to there, how many holes of tension to set on the spring hinge. We'll go over that next. There is that link below this video to the installation instructions. Let's take a look at that, because now it's going to tell us how much tension to set. You're going to want to install your spring hinges, it is indicated there, middle and bottom, not the top. If you've got 3 spring hinges, you'll obviously occupy the top location, but if there's 2, go middle and bottom. The top hinge is the hinge that does all the majority of load carrying of the door. 70% of the door weight, in fact, is held by that top hinge. And technically, spring hinges are not load rated at all. So put this at the middle and bottom, or your spring hinges. If you've got one, put it at the bottom. Middle would be okay, but the bottom would work. Okay, now, when you study the hinge feature itself, you're going to notice that there is this feature here that doesn't exist down here. Well, that's called the tension collar. With every spring hinge that you order, you're going to get, with every order that you place, you'll get a tension rod. And for every hinge that you order, you're going to get a tension pin. When you install the hinge with the tension collar pointed towards the top, you insert the rod into one of the holes and then turn it clockwise. That will allow you to set tension on the spring and reveal new additional holes, and it's into one of those newly revealed holes that you will insert the tension pin. Do not exceed 3 holes of tension when you can accomplish a 180-degree door swing, and you can go up to 4 holes of tension if you get to only 90 degree. Don't exceed that or you're going to contort and possibly break that spring. Now if you install the hinge or encounter one where the tension collar is at the bottom, just rotate it counterclockwise to increase the spring tension. And that's how you'll go about setting the tension on this. So you'll hang the door without any tension, and then set some tension and test the door. Be conservative. You don't want the door to slam too quickly, and cycle it a couple of times, and then make adjustments accordingly. Now, I'm not a fan of spring hinges at all to close a door, because all it really is just a spring that's going to work to slam the door closed. Well, not necessarily slam, but close it in an uncontrollable sort of fashion, whereas with hydraulic control, like you'd have in a surface closer or an overhead concealed or a floor closer, you have control hydraulically over that, where you set those valves to control how quickly it moves predictably and consistently through the closing cycle, through your sweep area, like from 15 degree to 90 degree, and then your latching area, 0 to 15 degree. Whereas with a spring hinge, you can't control any of that. And if you have a condition where you've got a misfit door or an unusual frame condition, or you've got a air pressure condition, you might have to set that tension just to get the door moving quickly enough so that it can limp all the way closed. Therein lies where it's better to have more spring hinges rather than less, because you can liken it to a tugboat where they don't go very fast, but they can pull a lot of weight, like torque. So when you've got more spring hinges, you can have more residual stored energy in that last crucial 15 degree of closing, so that you don't have to set the tension up so high that the door has to move under inertia just to get closed. So more is better than less in this sort of regard. Plus, having more spring hinges will allow you to adjust over the seasons that you might encounter. Here in Chicago, you might have spring hinges like this on a common area door, where in the winter time, all the windows and doors are closed up, so that's one set of tension. But in the summertime, if you've got a rear window open, that door might encounter some air pressure moving through it, either slamming the door or helping make it more difficult, or preventing it from closing as smoothly, because you might have air flowing through that opening, where you might need a little more spring tension. The point being, having some additional spring tension on reserve may be a beneficial thing to your application. Now, this hinge is available in all of the finishes: your brass, your bronze, your chrome, your satin, your polished, oil rub bronze. Being Bommer, they can do plating of the hinge and a finish that may be atypical, like maybe antique nickel, polished bronze. They can do things like that. The hinge itself has another stamp I'd like to point out to you. It says Bommer, made in USA, a fact that Bommer is quite proud of, as am I to represent them. There is a link below this video to the manufacturer's page where you can pull up not only all of the Bommer products that we sell, but a link to the manufacturer's website, as well as a link to the full product catalog. I would encourage you to take a look at the full product catalog in terms of their spring hinges, because you'll see how many different profiles of pull pattern are available from them, and once you visually identify the hinge that you need, you might be able to pull up the template for it and then compare that dimensionally to your existing material. Any questions on this or any other Bommer product, please feel free to reach out to us. And thank you.